First of all, I would like to say thank you for coming. I'm really happy to see you here. I would also say thank you to the team of interpreters for your hard work. I would also say thank you to the technical crew for your professional support. I'm glad that you are all interested in senses, and I think particularly in the sense of smell. This is why we are all here. Usually the presentation of the person who runs the workshop tends to be a little bit boring, so I will not bore you with too much of my life story, but what I would like to tell you is it's maybe a little bit naive, but my example shows that it's always possible to fulfill your dreams. 10 years ago, I made up a job, a profession that didn't exist before. I called it senselier. So in Poland, because I'm Polish, we just say senselier, just like a sommelier is someone who translates the language of wines. A senselier is someone who translates the language of the senses. I started 10 years ago as a trainer for the perfume industry, working with global brands, then slowly also with niche brands. And with years, it turned out that there is a very strong need to talk about the senses. The philosopher Immanuel Kant said that the cognition begins with the senses. And if we think of it, it's actually true, because even if we hear something that is inspiring, it comes through the ears. Even if we read something, it comes through the eyes. And we are very deeply rooted in the sensory perceptions that we get from everything. Now, we are saying in the sensory business that the year 2016 is the year of the senses. People are slowly waking up to the fact that whatever we do and whatever we touch, whatever we taste, whatever we use as consumers, we are actually guided by our senses. Now think about the objects you have at home. Think about the objects you have in your bags. How many choices have you made based on how those things feel? If you think about face powder, there are many face powders around, but you probably wouldn't wear a powder on your face that doesn't smell right. For example, the lipstick I'm wearing, the texture is not very nice. I like the color, but I will not buy it again because it feels very dry on the lips. So the formula may be good, but the sensory experience of the product is not very fortunate for me, and I will not come back to this product again. I really like my notebook, which is made not of paper, but 100% of stone. So if you write on it, the pen glides so effortlessly that I'm much more likely to take notes during workshops or during speeches than I would normally do on a traditional notebook. It's because I like touching it. And I think you have many objects at home, like the salter, or most of your cosmetics, or the furniture you buy. Now imagine that this is plus 35 degrees outside, and we are having a garden party, and the ladies are wearing shorts, or short skirts, or short dresses. You have naked legs, and you are sitting on a hot plastic chair. It wouldn't feel very nice. So if you had the choice to sit in a cafe that offers you chairs like this, or something more airy, maybe something made of straw, it would feel much more comfortable. Whether we know it or not, we always make the decisions based on our senses. And when it comes to sense branding, or generally designing with senses, I got inspired actually about 7 years ago during my stay in Milan, where I booked into a very expensive hotel that had a magnificent, breathtaking view over the city, and I was so happy to be staying in a room with this huge panoramic window. I jumped onto the bed instantly, and in a moment I could smell that the headboard of the bed was completely stinky, like all the people's hair from all the people that had previously been sitting on this bed was already somehow smeared into the headboard, and it ruined this experience of luxury that I was hoping to get. For the rest of my stay, I was sleeping with my head where the legs should be. I couldn't even watch TV properly because the experience, what I was smelling in this luxury room, it was really horrible. And I couldn't open the window because the panoramic window was just not possible to open. This is when I got inspired to set up something like a creative studio that would just gather people, teams of people that like to talk about senses and like to design for the senses. Today I would like to show you that it's possible to speak through the sense of smell in design, in planning different activities, in designing products, in designing packaging, but also in designing brands, consumer experience. Even if you are a lawyer and you want to furnish your office, it's really important what kind of textures, colors and smells you can smell in this place. I would like to show you that the smell is a universal language that really speaks to us, and that we can use the element of scent in design to make it coherent. The word coherent is very important. I can give you a couple of examples where the senses were incorporated in the brand image in a very clever, intelligent, and well thought out way. This example goes very deeply in the car industry. Cars are never cheap. Even if it's like a relatively low-priced car, it's still a lot of money to spend. So very often cars pay a lot of attention to the way we feel inside a car. Of course, if you think the leather upholstery or a wooden steering wheel, this is something a little bit banal. But think about the sound. Volvo is an example of a brand that uses sound design as an element of increasing the feeling of safety, which is at the core of the brand. If you own a Volvo, you are supposed to feel like you are in the safest place on earth. Your children are safe, your family is safe, and you are safe. So what they did is they designed a special sound for the closing of the door, which sounds like the closing of a huge steel bank vault. Like you see in movies, you have a huge steel door with a huge steel wheel that needs to be turned in order for you to come inside the vault. This is something like the sound of a closing door in a Volvo car. It gives you the feeling that you are as safe as in a bank vault, only that you can come out. So this is the positive difference. Then the story of Rolls-Royce, when they went along with the development of technology and they started changing many of the materials inside the car. One year they realized that even though the quality of the product is going up, sales are going down. They started asking clients, why don't you buy our cars any longer? And it turned out that what is missing is actually the smell of the traditional Rolls-Royce, because they didn't use the same leather for the seats, they didn't use the same stitches, the same wool for the seats, they didn't use the same material for the dashboard. The smell of the old Rolls-Royce just was gone, so the spirit of the car was gone. They recreated the smell of the Rolls-Royce with over 700 molecules, and they put a dispenser under the passenger's front seat. So it diffuses the smell of the traditional car, and you can enjoy the spirit of the traditional Rolls-Royce, and at the same time enjoy the drive in a very advanced, technologically advanced car. You need to know that sense branding is not branding for our preferences, because what we smell, what we see, what we taste, and what we touch needs to be coherent. I will say it over and over. Now, when you think about shoes and about vanilla muffins, can you see any link between shoes and vanilla muffins? What do you think? Even a distant link between shoes and vanilla muffins. Comfort, okay. So this is like vanilla gives you the comfort of being at home, being able to relax, maybe even take a nap. Would you associate sexy high heels with a vanilla muffin? Yes. Okay, so it tells you that this shoe is... are comfortable. So I'm wearing my high heels, not today, but I feel comfortable with it. This is a voice that actually I've heard for the first time, because very often people get puzzled, like what does vanilla and shoes have in common? And yet I know a brand that sells high-quality shoes, and the shop smells of a vanilla muffin. This scent was chosen only because the manager liked it. Is it sense branding? No. In Polish, we have the word bezsens, which means nonsense. So I would say it's nonsense branding. You need to think of what people experience when they are in a place. And I would like to show you now that you can speak to the brain through the nose. You are going to sample a couple of fragrances. They are all raw materials. it is not important what those raw materials are. If you are interested, if you are curious, of course I can tell you what you are smelling. Maybe you will know what you are smelling, but it's not important so far. Before we start, a couple of words. I always need to start with the health and safety warning. Please, when you smell the raw materials from the blotters, do not touch your nose. They are very highly concentrated, from 80% up to 100% when we smell those natural essential oils. Please do not inhale too deeply and try to sniff a couple of times, just moving the blotter to the right and to the left in front of your nose. So it's like this and not like that. And no matter how much you like this raw material, please resist the temptation of smearing yourself on the neck or the wrists, because you might get allergic. It has never happened over the 10 years I've been working, but I have the obligation to tell you that it might be dangerous to your skin because the essences are not diluted. I will show you, because explaining scent works best in contrast. I'm going to show you two raw materials, and my question is, if you can taste any particular taste in those smells, if one of them seems sweet to you, and if the other one smells bitter, if so, which is which? All right? Please give me a moment. I will have to dip the blotters for you. You can keep the blotters for later reference, or you can just leave them on the tables. We will throw them away when we finish. And please give me a second to dip both, because I would like you to get both essences at the same time. Now, the associations with sweetness. Of course, it depends very much on the cultural context, but very often when we say that someone is sweet, it's a positive notion. We can say that a baby can be sweet, like cute and sweet, or a little puppy. Generally, sweetness and warmth are values that attract people and that they want to come closer to it. They want to touch it, they want to kiss it. Very often they want to eat it. So comfort and warmth are very often associated with sweetness. So again, your comment on the vanilla muffin and comfortable shoes makes sense, because whatever is sweet is comforting. Therefore, maybe it's also comfortable. But does our brain read the taste in the smell? Let's see. So you're here to assist, so let's do it like this. You can distribute one of the samples, and I will go with the other one. Each one of you should get two blotters, one from the assistant and one from me. Here you go. This one is for you. Remember not to touch your nose. Here you are. Here you go. For you. Here you go. This is the other one. The other one. Number two. Number two for you. This is sample number 2. And number 2 for you. Let's wait until everyone has got their samples. Is everyone now holding 2 blotters? Okay, so let's say number 1 came from the gentleman, number 2 came from me. Would you say that any of the samples is sweeter and any of the samples is more bitter than the other? What are your opinions? Tell me, I want to hear from you. I heard the opinion that the one from the boy was sweeter and that I gave you the bitter blotter. Do you agree? Does anyone recognize the raw materials you are smelling? Do you know what you are smelling? Does it make you think of anything, especially the sweet thing? Yeah, this is cotton candy or candy floss. Burnt sugar, caramel. So these are the associations. And the bitter thing you're smelling, this is there anyone? Yeah, it's patchouli essence. This is patchouli oil with this very specific bitterness. So now, Imagine that you are an architect and you are furnishing a lawyer's firm. You open the door and you can smell cotton candy right when you come in. What associations do we get from cotton candy? It may be joy, or it may be fun. It may be pleasure. It even may be something sensual. But is this something that we want to think of when we go to a lawyer with a problem that we want him to solve? Normally, we don't visit lawyers because we are happy with something. We visit a lawyer because we need help with something difficult. So, whenever you smell something sweet, please remember that on the scale of seriousness, bitter things are always higher than sweet things. The sweeter something is, the more fun it is. The more bitter something is, the more formal it becomes. Whenever you think of designing space, a packaging, a product, or even selecting a perfume for yourself, you should keep it in mind that in most circles, whatever smells sweet is more childish or even more yummy. But ask yourself, do we want to eat the thing that we are designing? Scent also speaks to the sense of touch. When we touch things, we expect very specific smells to accompany what we touch. Even if we think about touch, we have various sensations coming from our skin. We can feel if something is smooth or if something is rough. We can feel the temperature, so we can say if something is cool or if something is warm. We can also feel pressure. That's why we can say if something is heavy or something is light. And then there is also pain. When we cut ourselves or when we eat something spicy, this is actually some feeling of pain on the tongue. So the sense of touch is very often very deeply rooted in what we are smelling. I'm going to show you two things, and I would like you to tell me if one of them is cooler than the other, so if the other is warmer than the first one, or the other way around. Try to judge if you can smell lower temperature or higher temperature on any of the samples. Okay, so sample one is almost ready. Thank you for your help. Sometimes you need a contrasting smell to tell the difference, but in many cases you don't. Your brain just tells you all the experiences you've had with this smell. So this is sample 2. Here you are. Number 2 for you. This is yours. Here you go. Here you are, sample 2. Sample 2. Number 2. Number 2 for you. This is yours, for you and for you. Cooler, warmer. In which order did you receive the samples? Can you smell the temperatures? Or is it my fantasy? Tell me what you feel. It's too light? It's like too little for you to tell the temperature? Would you like to have the blotter dipped a little bit more? You cannot smell it? Let me see. It may be that the nose is just a bit too tired. Does anyone need a second dip of the first essence? The second? Okay, so I'll come back. With number 2. So I will come back with number 2. Now I have number 1. Does anyone need more number 1? No? So let me come back with number 2, and then we'll do the judgment. All right. Here you go. And number 2 for you. Here you are. So cool and warm. What are your... We have a voice here that number 1 is cooler. Do you agree? And if you are thinking of a color, do you have any specific shade in your mind? Green, some people also say blue, or those different shades of blue and green, but cooler shades. I would say maybe even a little bit like your sweater, which, by the way, is like the Pantone for 2016. So you are very much in the sensory trend for 2016 with the colors you are wearing. When you smell, the first one is it's a note. It's called an aquatic note. It's composed of a couple of synthetic molecules that give us this impression of putting our hands into crystal clear water. And whenever you have something that smells like this, very often it is put in a packaging that is very often blue or in any shade of blue, or even gray, because sometimes some people perceive the smell as something more metallic. So we have this texture of silver, not even gray, but silver. And the other note you are smelling, it's one of the youngest notes in perfumery, is the gourmand note. The second one, number 2, is gourmand. So it's the yummy vanilla caramel, candy-like note that, again, makes us think of something warmer, more comforting. Mm-hmm. Why? Ah, perfect. We have a very nice story here. The lady said that the first color that popped in her mind was the red color. But why? Because she was thinking of a watermelon. Very often when people speak of associations, it's very important to come to the root of the associations. I can tell you a very short story, we don't have much time, about the smell of... We are all adults, yes. The story of the smell of horse droppings. During one of workshops with men, I showed them a very specific molecule that has the smell of not only the horse, but of the poop that the horse leaves behind. And I asked the men what color comes to their mind when they smell it. Most of the people said brown, for obvious reasons. But one of the gentlemen said bright yellow. We're all baffled. How do you associate bright yellow, like a lemony yellow, with something that stinks like horse droppings? And then after a couple of minutes of conversation, we figured out. This gentleman has got a daughter who is in love with horses, and she goes horse riding 3 times a week. Very early in the morning, before school, she needs to help the stable staff to clean the horse. So the horse is already waiting for the little girl to arrive, and of course with as much assistance as a little girl can give, the horse is being cleaned before she can jump on it and start riding. And during colder days, the horse is covered with a blanket. And guess what color is the blanket? It's yellow. So this is this personal association of the smell of the horse stables with the color. But I would say when we take a random group of people from the street and we ask them, what color comes to your mind when you smell this? Most people would not say yellow. But this is very good news. You can be consistent with how you design with scent. So if you come into a shop, into an office, or into a spa where most of the material is dark wood, where you have dark stone, and generally everything is dark, most people would expect some oriental notes, maybe leathery notes, maybe even vanilla. But if you want to be more contradictory, if you want to surprise with something still that makes sense, you can think of a contrasting note, like a dash of light in this place. So do not accentuate the darkness, try to make it lighter. For example, the note of Hideon that comes from jasmine, it gives you the feeling of space. And if you want to add space in a place, or if you want to add light in a place, then you should play with very light citrusy notes. This is how it works. It sounds very abstract. Welcome. It sounds very abstract when we think about scent and sound, but you can still differentiate between high notes and low notes. So the next couple of samples will come with a question: which of those smells makes you think of a higher note, of a higher sound, higher pitch, and which one is more like a bass line in a song, like the bass guitar? Let's see if the nose can tell you. I always wish I had 4 arms for work. It would be much easier. Here you go. Thank you. And then number 2. I don't know if you heard about the Unsound Festival. Gesashen made a couple of perfumes to represent different sounds. And I really like this idea that someone approached the translation of sounds into smells. So I'll just go around from this side. Sample 2. Here you are. So is it the higher tone or the lower tone? One more, I will come back to you. Here you go. This one is for you. Here you are. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2 for you. Number 2. Number 2. And you will start with number 2, and I'll be back in a second with sample 1. Here you go. Is it an easy task or is it complicated? Come on, be brave. I think you can say it's easy. So which sound was deeper and which sound was higher? So what I hear from here is that the first one was deeper and the other one was higher. When we think of resins, the first thing you smell from the assistant is a very popular resin. You can find it in many, many perfumes. It's the labdanum resin. It can be found in many oriental formulae. And then the other one, the high-pitched note, is the citrus accord. And you have a blend of different citrus oils. And again, if something smells of lemon, if you think of sunlight, if you think of the color of the lemon peel, and generally citrus fruit, this is the optimism. This is the uplifting influence it has on our senses. I don't remember the name of the speaker, but one of the TED speakers once said that this is physiologically impossible to be depressed while wearing bright red trousers. And I think there is something to it, that specific colors also make an impression on our mood. And this is also how scent works, especially with citrus oils, because they have this aromatherapeutic influence on our nervous system. The last thing would be to try to smell color. I'm going to show you something that is supposed to direct your attention towards the hues of green, and there is one that might perhaps smell to you as something pink or pinkish. Let's see if you can smell the colors on the samples. The introduction will soon be over and we will move to the part of the meeting where you do the job. Here you go. So this is number 1. And I will come to you with number 2 for contrast. All right, let me start from this side. Here you are. This one is for you. This is number 2. Number 2 comes from me, number 1 comes from the assistant. Here you are. Number 2, number 2, number 2, sample 2, number 2, number 2, and let me come back to you. And number 2 to compare. Here you are. I'm especially interested in your opinions on the colors because they are very culture specific, and it may happen that in this group that we are working here you will not have the same associations. But let's first start with the sample that the assistant gave you. Is there a color you would associate it with? Is it... can... Very good. Do you know what fruit it is? Raspberry. Perfect. This is raspberry. This is raspberry, and it's almost like the food flavor that we can taste in lollipops or yogurt. And the other one, does it make you think of green? This is actually the main constituent of the green accord in perfumery, and this is the galbanum resin. This is the only green resin there is. Mostly resins will give you this brown smell, very deep, very base-like, very oriental. And galbanum resin from Iran, it gives you this hue of greenery. This morning, Michael Edwards said that green notes in perfumery, they constitute only like 1% of the perfumes, which I think is a pity. I wish there was more of those green notes in perfumes. It makes me think of crushed leaves, freshly cut grass, nature in April when everything just wakes up to life. This is a very optimistic scent. Let me check how much time we have. We still have some time. Good. You are going to need some space on your tables right now because I will give you a set of sensory cards. Actually, you are going to need the whole table more or less because the set contains 120 separate cards. We have 5 groups, so if you feel comfortable in your tiny groups of 2, you can remain in your groups of 2, no problem. But if you want to make a larger group of 4, then of course you can change your tables. I'm going to give you cards that are built of a couple of categories. You will see colors, you will see abstract patterns, you will see different materials, including fabrics, and you will also see some verbal values. You will see simply words. Those cards are bilingual. One of the languages is in Polish, so you can disregard it, but the other part of the card is in English. So whenever you see a word you don't understand, just flip the card, and there is the English translation on the other side. And all the white cards, they have a double translation, both in English in bigger letters and then in Polish underneath. So I hope you will not have a problem to work them. What I would like you to do is to spread all the cards evenly on the table, so that all the group members can see what they are working with. Thank you. Here you are. Every group has exactly the same set of cards. You can make a more structured approach, so you can divide them like colors separately, textures separately, or you can work in an organic way, simply putting them as you find them. Please take a moment to look at the cards and check if everything is understandable. I can help you so that it goes a little bit quicker. Gold, burgundy, pink, and brown.
Sorry, I put them facing me. No, it's okay.
And the abstract pictures will go here.
There was some essence oil that stayed on the table, so it's going to...
It's okay. I can just, it's foiled, so I can just wipe it off. And the words, oh, the tables can barely take it. So many. Okay, resin, ritual, brisk, and space.
If you need something like 10 minutes more, take it because the next conference is at 4 p.m.
Okay, so we'll just see how the groups work. The groups are quite small, so okay. We are going to start with a warm-up. So every group will get exactly the same thing to smell. I hope nobody got hurt by the rubber band that just sprinked out of my hand. Do you want something easy or something difficult? Please say difficult. Okay. All right. So for the beginning, you will get something not too complicated as a warm-up. And as I said, everyone is going to get exactly the same essence to smell. If you are interested what you are smelling, I can tell you afterwards, but at the very beginning, it's just not necessary to know. I would say I'd rather you just didn't know. Then you wouldn't get focused on the name so much. What I would like you to do is to smell the blotters and then together as one group choose 10 cards in different proportions that, in your opinion, reflect the nature of what you are smelling. It needs to be a democratic choice, so every group must discuss, negotiate, and together as a group pick 10 cards that will describe the nature of what you are smelling. So you must make a common decision. Do not make separate collections of cards, just try to do it as a group. Not less and not more than 10 cards. Take your time, you don't need to hurry. I'm really curious what cards you will pick, if they will be coherent between the groups. Always in a multicultural group, this is very thrilling to wait for the outcome. I know there is not much space on the tables left, but please, if you could just put those selected cards aside, you can hold them in your hand, or you can just create a row or a cloud of cards, and then we'll see what your decisions are. Ten cards that will represent those different impressions that accompany this scent. I can see you already have 10. Was it easy to decide? Were they conflicting? Were there any conflicting opinions?
Not that much, not so principled.
Okay. So if you could include one more, you would also include this picture. Okay.
I would include this one.
All right. In a moment, we'll just discuss every group's selections. 10. Can I have a look at your choices? It is this group here. Did any of those cards came as first, and then you started adding?
The first one was this for everybody.
And those two?
Those two is his choice.
I don't agree.
Can you tell me how you came at?
So I remember the inter of the car, leader, and the rubber, a gin.
Oh,
I remember a gin.
okay. But you, I can see you are separating yourself from this opinion. So this is again like the yellow blanket phenomenon, right? This is your association. And it's not a common association, but still for you it's true. So no one can argue that this is not. And the rest?
Example, both of us felt beige to me. A note inside the house.
And that was yellow.
It was yellow, so
Okay.
but also blue and fresh and glass, blue, fresh and glass.
There is like a common association here, something cool, fresh, and transparent. Okay, we'll come back to it in a moment. Is this your selection?
Yeah, we're here.
Metal fresh, silver. Can you tell me how you understand this?
Because, well, it's difficult to describe.
Is it because it's regular or it's quite not regular?
See, I saw more this as a question of openness, as in space. But you see, there's no closure in this. And so I can understand her interpretation, and we're working together. So I can see her interpretation because it's regular, but there's no boundaries.
Comparing to those, this one is lighter.
There is lots of space between those single dots. There's lots of light between them.
We had lights.
Glass, because this gives me a sense of transparency.
Perfect. Where is your selection? Oh.
Do we do well?
This is perfect. You will see when we. Can I just put it even over the other cards? Is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
So that we can see the whole map. Green, glass, white, night, wind, spring, bright, and day. Okay, what I would like us to do is we could perhaps start with this group. If you could read slowly, one by one, the cards you chose, and if you have the same card in your selection, please put it away. Okay? Could you please begin? What is your first association? If you have the same card in your selection, put it away. Okay?
Metal.
Metal is the first one. Okay. Fresh. Okay. Silver. Mm-hmm.
This one.
The dots. Okay.
Chill.
Do you have chill?
Glass.
Glass as material. Okay, we have glass here. Space. Brisk. Brisk. Okay. Wind. And the last one? Bright. There was also one suggestion of the abstract pattern. Could you please? Uh-huh. And the groups that had the same. Yeah. What does it make you think of, like this and that? The sea or water, or when you like throw a stone?
It's infinite, as in it doesn't stop. There's no boundaries. That's
Oh,
why we stopped with the go on a ripple effect.
it's so interesting in the context of infinity, like the main theme for this year's edition of.
There's no closure. It never doesn't stop.
Any other abstract pictures you have? So no more abstract patterns? No. Okay. What materials do you have? Because they are completely different. You've got leather and rubber. It was a personal association. Could you explain to the rest of the group?
Because I remember a car salon car salon.
The car salon, where salon where you can buy cars.
And later, the internal of car,
Yes,
rubber,
the
because
seats of the cars. Are
rubber because I remember the gym.
So when we think about the smell of freshness, the gym is a place where you get this mix of leather, like the punching bags for people who train boxing. But we also have rubber, and we have the body shower, yes, and the deodorant. So we have different aspects of the like olfactory smellscape of the gym. We also have two other colors. We have beige and blue. Any other choices for blue? And the words that were left?
spring, light.
Spring and light. We also have spring and light here and also there. I could see coherent choices of green, so the freshness of green, and also magenta. Was it an association with watermelon again? No?
Association with candies that you can be pick raspberry, strawberry that you want to eat.
And the remaining words? Rounded.
Rounded, yeah. Day, white, nature, youth, and silk.
Rounded, day, white, nature, youth, and silk. These are all words that make you think of something that goes up, of something that opens, of something that is light, that is fresh, that is bright, and generally cool. And what you are smelling is a relatively new accord. It's the ozone accord. It should give the ozone. It's what you can smell after a thunderstorm, like slight electricity in the air. And very often it is linked to those aquatic associations, again, water, but also cucumber. And very often people say green because somehow their mind gives them the association of cucumber. You could see that it is not a finished group of associations, but it's more of a map or a tree where you have a core where one or two words would repeat. Then we have something like synonyms in how we understand smell. And sometimes, like at the periphery of the map, we have those person-specific associations that perhaps not everyone will share, but in the core of the map, of the sensory map, we have very many associations in common. This was just a warm-up. Now, every group will get a separate thing to smell. And what we are going to do is first, I will give you 5 minutes to smell your sample. As I said, we will have 4 different samples, and choose only 5 cards. This time it's only 5, so you need to make an essence of your associations and choose 5 cards that describe the nature of the smell. And please put all the other cards away. So you can just make a little pile and put them away and only leave those 5 cards that you will associate with the smell. First, we will just work in groups, and when you finish, we will leave the blotters on the tables, and you will stand up and we will circulate so that you will be able to smell and look at the maps of every group we have. Okay? So now, Group 1 is very small. In fact, I have them already numbered. Because some of the groups are larger than the others, I will give you more blotters for the table so that everyone who comes later can have their own blotter for smelling. So if you could put this on the table for group 1, but only for group 1, so they get everything you have. Then group number 2, our largest group. Thank you. This is number 2 for table 2. Group 3, get ready for your sample. This is for table 3. Thank you. And the last one, group 4. Thank you, and this is group 4. Take a couple of minutes to think carefully, ask your noses what you are smelling, what impressions you can feel when you smell it. Make your decisions, don't hurry, but please only choose 5 cards and put the rest of the cards away. Sorry?
I think my nose doesn't work anymore. I don't smell.
It's overloaded, so just wait a moment and come back after a couple of seconds. Usually 30 seconds is enough for the nose to reset. Thank you. You cannot smell anything? But this is actually what you should be smelling, like almost nothing. That's the thing.
Okay, now
This is what it is. So you can take all of them. Maybe the amount will help you, but this is the nature of this raw material. This is supposed to smell like that. Almost not smell at all. Choose 5 cards and then put the rest of the cards away, so that on the table you only have those 5 selected cards and the blotters.
she said the ritual, but I don't associate this in this ritual. I'm European, and she's an Asian,
Mm-hmm.
and so our different cultural backgrounds.
But it's very
We see
interesting.
things very differently. For her, that's cold, and for me, cream is warm because I think of cream and milk and
Or cashmere wool.
the cashmere wool.
It's a color of calm,
Color of calm.
so it's going to be cool.
So for you, this is cool.
Because calming down is cooling off. It's like lowering the temperature, right? It's like cooling off emotions. So maybe this is the association. So you can make two separate maps.
I like just. I'm enjoying seeing the way we see differently. I'm very Mediterranean. I'm English but Spanish, so there's the
Oh, it's interesting. English but Spanish? Cool.
there's the hot-blooded side.
I like the negative selection you are making, like quickly putting away the things that are completely not in the profile and just leaving the ones that you are taking into consideration. Great. Any conflicting opinions here? No? Okay, good. It's a good strategy. Is your map ready? And who was the one who pointed at this card? Okay. I can't say anything more at the moment, but
Falling down, and this is falling up. So I see the falling up because you can interpret this.
exactly. So you can turn the card any way you want. Sorry? Yes, they have numbers. So all the blotters with the number 2, it's the same. This is not. Oh, this is the same. Because like the extra blotters are for the rest to smell. So if this is your... No, you're still... Okay. Please remember to put all the cards away that are not chosen. Please take no more than 2 minutes, because I would also not more than 2 minutes more. You are already done, so it's okay. But to the rest of the groups, please 2 more minutes, and then we need to think of wrapping it up. Wow. Are they also the numbered blotters? No. So I will take them away so that people don't get mistaken. This is the selection. Okay, so if you could please put all the other cards away. Yeah, on a pile so that they don't disturb and distract. I can help you. No, you will not need them anymore. And I will leave them here. Are these the numbered blotters? Yes, with 3. Is it also number 3? Yes? Okay. I'm getting them ready for the next group. This profile is ready. Also here.
It's getting more rounded. It's more warm. What does it mean warm? Mouth water. Did we have warm? Have I removed warm?
No.
Is there a word warm?
No.
No warm. I remove wood. No orange. I don't feel anymore. Sun. No.
It is changing a little bit. First of all, it's started to unveil, to develop. So the last couple of seconds, please. We need to get the maps ready, and then we'll start smelling what other people prepared.
Okay, so what do we think?
Okay.
Day. I'm more for an adjective. Sweet, round, or rounded. We've got.
You got smooth, white.
Okay.
Do you want to keep those two? No? Okay.
So out of these, where we go? Keep smooth.
There is also white.
Synthetic, because it's getting too rounded. So synthetic.
Maybe it's both. Maybe both.
No, I think these two. Remove these two.
And the colors, do you want to keep any of the colors?
This one, yes. Flush. Still on pink. Well, the pink I associate with sweet. So, and the rounded now. So much sweet now.
Would you eat it? Is it something edible? Something you would like to put in your mouth and eat? This way, sweet? Because sweetness has different faces.
I do.
So you need to take one away because you can only... So the next group is already coming in, so I'm afraid we need to...
Okay, we want to eliminate these two. Keep the rounded. This one, yes. Okay. Between these two. You're not happy with either one? No, I don't feel. You don't sweet, sweet? You don't know. It's just
So you can leave 4. You can have a minimalist map of 4, and that's it.
there's 4, and then I will keep them.
One on the orbit. Okay. All right, so now for the last thing we would do is to go to the other groups, leave the blotters and the maps on the tables, and I would like you to look at the maps that the rest of the groups have created and try to imagine what kind of smell you would expect, and then reach out for the blotter and smell it. Check if this is something you expected and if it matches your way of understanding. The blotters have numbers, so you can just put it up, smell it.
Can I explain something? Because we wanted to give the European and Asian side. So the European is with the pink, and the Asian side is with the...
Without the pink. Okay.
Because they're so different, but we wanted to give the two images of our smell.
Perfect. It's quite the opposite. Do you think the map matches the impression that you got? Burgundy, smoke, resin, wood, and
Yes.
I would say you got the opposing essences to smell. This is the immortelle flower, very smoky. It actually doesn't belong with the other flowers, it belongs with spices or woods. What kind of smell are you expecting, looking at the...
Similar
To yours?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
maybe a little bit strong. I don't know, like bass. I don't know.
Would you say it's much lighter? Don't you think it's much lighter than yours?
It's more spicy. Fresh.
Perfect, because this is pink pepper. It's pink pepper. So spicy is exactly the word we need. Yeah, beautiful. What do you think? Does the map represent what you are smelling?
I don't smell anything.
It's not surprising because what you are smelling here is white musk. And it's very quiet. It's not very volatile. You need to take the blotter with you and smell it maybe after an hour. You will then see, like you can remember the map and then you can come back to it with your nose. It's very quiet and delicate, very smooth. I think this represents the smell, like those two words, they nail it.
What was a number 2?
Number 2, pink pepper.
Pepper.
Pink pepper. It's fresh and spicy at the same time, and very often people think of woody notes on the pink pepper.
You talk about the cream for the shoes. Because
Something resinous. It's white musk.
It's white mask. Didn't recognize.
It's white musk. So I think those words, it's like
Interesting, very.
all of them.
And then from the Asian.
Also, yeah. Interesting.
The one there, this is black currant. You're smelling black currant. It's like the fruit and the bush together. You can also smell the green leaves, the twigs, and the black currant fruit. I will show you. I will show you. Black currant. You definitely know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like custard.
So we had white musk here, and then there we had black currant, pink pepper, and this was a very unusual flower, the immortal flower, immortelle. And it's the smokiest of all flowers. In fact, it's not even a floral note. White musk. What I wanted to show you with this workshop is that, first of all, senses make sense. So you can use senses, especially the sense of smell, in design, in planning communication, in designing space, in designing packaging, product, and even designing your own image. I was very, very happy to see people coming from different countries, different cultures, different parts of the globe. It's really interesting to see different points of view, and I always learn as much from the participants of the workshops as hopefully you could learn from me. So thank you again for coming. Once again, thanks to the technical crew, the interpreting team, and I hope to see you again in the future. I'm also available for discussion now after the workshop if you want to ask me any questions. Thank you so much. Thank you.